Hey everyone, what up? Mad Kaiser here. With Dynasty Warriors Origins close to release, I've always a good time to look back on the series and see how it has evolved over the years, going from its very high points to its very low points, and to see on how the creator of the whole Musou Genre came to be and so. In this, I gathered some other content creator friends of mine, who are each fans of the series. But before we begin, if you like what you're seeing here, then by all means, like the video, click the subscribe button if you're new, and hit that bell notification icon if you want more Warriors content from yours truly. With that said, let's get back to the video, and with that all in mind, sit back, enjoy some food and drinks, and relax as we take you through this Dynasty Warriors series retrospective. Kicking off, we begin with Dynasty Warriors, created by Omega Force and published by Koei, which was released for the PlayStation 1 in 1997 for both Japan and North America, and then a year later for the PAL region. This game, however, is not the game that kicked off the whole Musou genre to begin with. What? Instead, it's actually a weapon-based one-on-one fighting game that's akin to the likes of, say, Soul Calibur and Samurai Showdown. The character roster is centered on the three warring factions based on the three kingdoms, with having 16 playable characters in total, including Lu Bu, Dio-chan, and 2 guest characters that actually come from the Sengoku era period of Japan, and will even be in games like, say, the Samurai Warriors series, that being both Nobunga and Tokichi. Gameplay-wise, this game focused more on parrying enemy strikes by executing attacks at the same height with the correct timing, leaving the enemy vulnerable to attack, with stages taking place either dawn, noon, or dusk. While this game did get solid reviews, this would eventually be a one-off, as the next games would go for a more different genre, ever so the fact that this game never got acknowledged as a true Dynasty Warriors title, and so after that, the series would change drastically. Dynasty Warriors 2, also known as Shin Sengoku Musou, was released for the PlayStation 2 in 2000, and was the first game to ever establish the whole Musou genre, and what would the franchise be known for. Instead of the whole one-on-one fighter that you got from the previous game, this one would be instead a full-on hack and slash, would get to play as one character taking down 1,000 enemies. Though being first of its kind, it's not exactly the cakewalk that your average Joes would assume that the genre itself would be known for. Oh no! It was the first game to introduce things like Musou mode and free mode, the form of which where you get to play the campaign story mode, where you play as the officer until the kingdom you are fighting for has unified China, and for free mode, that allows you to replay any stage as any character you want. This game was a massive turning point and a huge hit, getting solid reviews and even managed to hit 300,000 units around its first 6 days of its release, especially in Japan let alone. Dynasty Warriors 2 cemented a legacy and a formula that Omega Force would later focus on refining in later installments. Dynasty Warriors 3 is a follow-up from Dynasty Warriors 2 and is seen as a genuine improvement, releasing for the PlayStation 2 in 2001 in both Japan and America, and then a year later in Europe, but it also released in 2002 for Xbox, making the first time this series has jumped to Xbox as well. As for the improvement side of things, it has done things like adding the cut content that was initially scrapped from Dynasty Warriors 2, which included stages that are rather important in the whole Three Kingdoms depiction being fully implemented here. Not only that, but the graphics and the overall gameplay engine got some fairly good tweaks. Both Musou and free modes make a return in, as well as adding new characters to the mix. But what is another new addition to this game would have to be versus mode, that being couch co-op multiplayer, where you and a friend can play through the various modes that includes team battle, 3 vs 3 elimination, struggle for the Imperial Seal, skirmish at Chanbang Bridge, and 4 vs 4 elimination. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to co-op. You even had challenge mode, which from 9 minutes of gameplay involves 2 modes, that being endurance and time attack. When it comes to the gameplay, 3 even added a bit of RPG elements to the mix, where the player can increase the attack, defense, life bar, or Musou bar of the characters, and this was allowed by defeating enemy officers and gate captains that can drop items that help those statistics. Though while it's not initially helpful, it does still help in the grand scheme of things regardless. Initially, you do start with 15 available characters to play as, while new and returning characters can be unlocked by performing special events during battle or simply meeting them during battle. Each playable character has their own unique weapon that can be upgraded and can allow for a maximum of 4 levels for each weapon. Dynasty Warriors 3 was a bigger success, and the first one in the series to reach 1 million units, and is often looked back as one of the more best games in the entire series. It's also the first one to introduce an expansion called Extreme Legends, released for the PlayStation 2 only in Japan in 2002, as well as also a year later in Europe. This would add lots of things, including new items and the ability to fully customize bodyguards, a Musou mode for the playable characters that did not belong to either faction was available, and even allowed players to obtain a 5th level weapon for each character, and you had the option of 2 brand new difficulty levels, that being both beginner and expert. You even had the option to import content from the original Dynasty Warriors 3 by using its disc while still playing Extreme Legends by using the load original option to get the full-on Dynasty Warriors experience, so to speak. However, just by itself, Extreme Legends would only feature its own scenarios and its own Musou modes, though it does have the option to copy data from a previously saved Dynasty Warriors 3 file on a memory card, but that's only if there's already data of that game before creating save data for that XL version. But needless to say, if Dynasty Warriors 2 pioneered a whole genre and said foundation, 3 would be the genuine step up and overall improvement to that formula. Dynasty Warriors 4 is the next game following up from Dynasty Warriors 3. Released for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2003, and then 2 years later it would also come to PC, making it the first Dynasty Warriors game to ever come to PC to begin with. And it would even include a hyper version, which had things like improved graphics, high resolution options, more characters on screen, better draw distance, and improved enemy AI. 4 built upon its predecessors by adding new playable characters to the mix, as well as also additional modes of play, including a brand new edit mode, where players can be able to choose a name as well as gender, costume, and weapon for the character, and having 5 weapon types that an edit character can wield, that being from the great sword, to the rapier, to the sword, to the spear and pike. And choosing said weapon will emulate a player character's moveset, with the exception of the great sword and rapier. Unlike the past games, the officers in this one would exhibit more dynamic reactions to battlefield events, which would offer a more responsive experience for players. The game in total would have a huge roster of 42 playable characters, or 46 if you include your created characters. In Dynasty Warriors 4, each playable character can equip items to enhance their abilities, and these weapons are obtained through leveling up rather than just being directly acquired compared to past entries. Some items are exclusive to particular stages and can only be obtained by completing specific objectives, and these objectives vary in difficulty, ranging from straightforward to more challenging. Musou mode in this time is catered to more of each kingdom rather than the individual characters, with each version having its own various stages or acts. And also, during each stage preparation, the player can switch characters based on each kingdom back at the character's select screen and free modes, as well as free modes even return, having a difficulty ranking that ranges from 1 to 8. Playing it on easy would decrease a stage's difficulty by 1, and playing it on hard would increase it by 1. The versus mode and challenge mode are also back, with some new features, including modes from Extreme Legends, that being from Dynasty Warriors 3, Both graphically and gameplay wise, it's another step up from Dynasty Warriors 3. And what's also notable about 4 is the inclusion of duels, where you get to be challenged by officers to a duel, and have the option to either accept or not accept. And allowing to do so, you get to take down the officer without any peon interference in a one-on-one battle. And if you're able to defeat the officer in this mode, you get a morale boost. Like with Dynasty Warriors 3, Dynasty Warriors 4 would also get expansion with Extreme Legends on PS2 on 2003, 2004, as well as having a brand new addition of 2 modes, that being Legend and Extreme mode. With Legend, it adds a new stage for each character in the game, which includes the ones that never got into base Dynasty Warriors 4. And Extreme mode is essentially like a roguelike Dynasty Warriors experience, where you get to go through shorter, though much more tougher stages as long as possible, and conquer various amount of areas. And the further you go in, it gets a lot more tougher. And like before, you are able to even import base game Dynasty Warriors 4's data into Extreme Legends as well. However, Dynasty Warriors 4 also added a brand new spin-off series in the mix, in the form of Empires. Dynasty Warriors 4 Empires released on PlayStation 2 in August 31st, 2004. And this focused more on a strategic approach, with some elements including a brand new strategy mode called Empire Mode, which is actually similar to the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, with the center goal in Empire Mode to conquer each land in order to beat the game, by invading and conquering all areas of China. And you have the option to start with the rulers of the game in their historical locations, or opt for a more fictional version. If the player also chooses the Yellow Turban's forces in the historical setting, they will even start with only one region, rather than having multiple regions to start with. If there are edit characters created, the player can even start with one of them as the ruler of one of those empty regions. There are also various amounts of spin-offs using the framework of Dynasty Warriors 4, like Dynasty Warriors Advanced, which was actually a port of Dynasty Warriors 4 for the Game Boy Advance. And you also had Dynasty Warriors for the PlayStation Portable, which is basically Dynasty Warriors 4 for the PlayStation Portable, but without the 4. And it had more tactical elements different from Empires itself. Overall, Dynasty Warriors 4 was the biggest success, and when released in Japan, it topped the sales charts and even sold over 1 million copies within 9 days. And just like with Dynasty Warriors 3, 4 is another beloved title. However, as beloved as 4 is, the next game will be what many consider to be peak Dynasty Warriors.
The Dynasty Warriors series is one of my guilty pleasures when it comes to gaming. I thoroughly love this series and the utter excitement that blooms within me when I play it. From its mainline entries to its spin-offs, I just love them. So, when my buddy Mad Kaiser asked me if I wanted to talk about Dynasty Warriors, I was like, F yeah! And thankfully, I get to talk about my favourite installment in the mainline games, Dynasty Warriors 5. Released in the year of 2005 for the PS2 and Xbox, and later on in 2006 for the Xbox 360 and Microsoft Windows, Dynasty Warriors 5 continued on the legacy of the games that came beforehand, with Omega Force still developing the game, and Koei Tecmo publishing this title that dives into the romance of the Three Kingdoms. Its hack and slash nature of 1 versus 1,000 scenarios, as you butcher your way through foes, is timeless. And while it doesn't rock the boat too much, it does change up a few things compared to previous entries. Musou mode returns to campaigns for each playable character in the game, unlike in Dynasty Warriors 4 where you had a Musou mode for each faction. I prefer having a campaign for each character as it lets you explore the cast and learn about each character a little more in depth. With 5 stages for each character, there's a lot to sink your teeth into and just feast on. Dynasty Warriors 5 had a roster size of 48 playable characters, and it wouldn't be until Dynasty Warriors 7 where its roster would be beaten in size. So you have plentiful choice between the factions of Wu, Wei, Shu and the others. We got some new characters the likes of Cao Pi and Ling Tong. Outside of Musou mode, you have free mode that lets you select any war zone and play through it with any character you have unlocked. There is a challenge mode with tasks such as killing as many soldiers as you can in a time limit, or a time trial where you have to kill a set number of troops under a certain time. There's also a camp mode that lets you look at the characters and their weapons, and then there's the encyclopedia that gives you the background of what happens in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms in general, as well as for each officer. The combat is very much the same as previous entries in the series, with you having your normal attack, which you can string up to 6 consecutive attacks if you have the right weapon, or if after a normal attack you can activate a special attack to finish off the combo, with some being able to stun foes or hit a wide group or area of people. You can block and parry, but I never do that simply because I'm all about the attacking. And then you have your super duper move when your Musou gauge is full. You have a more powerful version of your super duper move when your health is low or when you're beside a teammate who also has their Musou gauge ready. But if you come across a Musou token, you can get your super duper Musou finisher by entering Musou Rage, where you just become an unstoppable force of nature. Bodyguards are back, but this time you have only one that can follow with you around the battlefield, and they are surprisingly useful in helping you pester any enemy officer. But I do think my favourite aspect in Dynasty Warrior games is the local co-op. The number of times I've played this game with friends and cousins where we would get lost in it for a whole day, as we abused any poor enemy that thought to get in our way. This is where my fondest memories come from, especially as we tried to beat Lu Bu. I can clearly remember how we bet him with hit and run tactics together. Whenever someone was low on health, you'd tap in and they'd go find some health, and vice versa until you beat the bugger, and it was glorious. The game holds up surprisingly well visually. I did find myself really appreciating some of the level designs, and the animation for the moves are always cool to see. The music it provides is brilliant too, but that's sort of a common thing among Dynasty Warrior games. The voice acting though, is pure gold. We're still in the period where they call Cao Cao, Cow Cow, and I love it. The voice acting can be pretty rough at points, but I think it's an unmistakable charm of these games, and is a product of its time. Now, there have been other editions of the game, like Extreme Legends. It lacks the Musou mode and free mode, but has its own modes, such as Extreme mode, which is like a survival mode, and Destiny mode, where you play as a created character under Shu, Wu, or Wei. Then there was Shin Sangoku Musou 4 Special, which was released only in Japan and Taiwan, which was a combination of the original Dynasty Warriors 5 mixed with the Extreme Legends game. And finally, we have Dynasty Warriors 5 Empires, where you have a more strategic flow to the game as you try to conquer China. I can't really speak on these editions, as I've never played them. In fact, I never knew that Dynasty Warriors had these kinds of spin-offs until Dynasty Warriors 7. But it's cool they have these Wii editions that branch out among the base game's modes. And I think I'll leave my rambling there. Dynasty Warriors 5, brilliant game! Thanks Mad Kaiser for letting me talk Dynasty Warriors, you made my day by letting me do so. But now on to the next friend to discuss more Dynasty Warriors.
Now we head on to Dynasty Warriors 6, which many consider to be a turning point. For better, or mostly for worse. Now this game was actually a cross-gen title released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in 2007, and then a year later worldwide, among it also being released for PlayStation 2 that same year and also being on PC. And then it also had a PlayStation Portable version which was based on the PS2 version, and that was released on 2010. Now the main new key addition for this game, especially regarding the combat, is the Renbu system, which is a new alternative way for characters to build up their attack combos. The Renbu system uses a gauge that will gradually fill as you perform attacks. Performing attacks and dealing damage to the enemy will fill up the Renbu gauge, eventually earning a brand new rank and level. And while you do take damage, or you don't attack for a long period of time, that gauge does eventually drop out. And if you take so much damage, or just don't attack for a very long time, that game will drop back down to the previous level. Another new addition is the skill tree, where characters can earn higher Renbu ranks, special abilities, and abilities to improve their attributes. As the progression of the skill tree moves from left to right, those on the right side of the tree are harder to unlock than say ones on the left. However, there is one thing that's really divisive about this game, and that is a lot of the unique character movesets from each character in this are completely cut, and the only ones that have unique movesets are the only ones that have their Musou modes to themselves. The rest of the characters you do get to play as, that are only playable in free mode mind you, have cloned movesets based on the characters that are available in Musou mode, with just altered properties. And because of the Renbu system, the traditional fourth weapon from previous games have been removed, with the 3 normal weapons just no longer being quality based. Not only that, but each weapon obtained have random stats effects implemented, and the weight system that was also carried from previous games are completely gone, and instead we got is weapon categories, which involves strength, skill, and standard. Duels from Dynasty Warriors 4 also make a comeback, but have been revamped, where duels now take place on the battlefield, and the nearby soldiers will circle around the 2 fighters, and even other officers may jump into the circle. The new key innovations to the series are the ability to climb ladders and swim. Now as for the roster itself, it does contain 41 playable characters, which does seem like a step down from 48 playable characters. And unlike past games which feature Musou mode for all characters, only 17 of those playable characters get stories to themselves, while as I mentioned, the other characters are only playable in either free mode or challenge mode. The camp does return in this game and serves as the gallery mode. Not only that, but this game did receive free expansions, so to speak. Dynasty Warriors 6 Special is an updated version for the PlayStation 2 and PSP, where while the graphics do get a bit of a tone down, and things like swimming and climbing are removed, you still get new stages, Musou modes, cutscenes, and it does individualize 6 other character weapons and movesets. And then we of course have Dynasty Warriors 6 Empires, and the player can play as either generic or unique characters to conquer all of China, and has the addition of the brand new Cradle Warrior system. And it also has some new features that are lifted from 6 Special, without say the cut things including the downscaled graphics. And there's also even a brand new spin-off called Dynasty Warriors Strike Force, and this game introduces Fury forms, which are basically mythical transformations of the characters with overall exaggerated features and new abilities, as well as having the option for multiplayer, as 4 players can make a 4-man team for the same mission. But overall, Dynasty Warriors 6 was met with mixed reviews, and many do consider to be one of the worst games in this series. Not only that, but Dynasty Warriors 6 just left a massive stain on the series that slowly once built its reputation thanks to the past 3 games. And while 6 did put the series at a rough spot, especially when transitioning to the next generation of consoles and making some odd decisions in the mix, ultimately there were still 2 diamonds in the rough.
Hey folks, Jay from Cold Nights here, and when my good friend Matt Kaiser asked me what my favorite installment in the Dynasty Warriors series was, it had to be Dynasty Warriors 7. Let's get into it! Dynasty Warriors 7 was released in March of 2011, and its Extreme Legends expansion was released in November of the same year. Koei promised greatly improved graphics and the support of stereoscopic 3D. The game was a significant step forward as far as the length of the story and the volume of content on offer. The title was the first in the series to extend past the legendary Battle of Wuzhong Plains, adding Jin as a completely new faction, multiple characters, and numerous battles. In total, between the main game and the 2 expansions, 17 characters were added to the roster. Multiple updates to combat, including special attacks when switching between weapons in battle, and aerial Musou attacks, were added in this title as well. The game did receive a PSP port in Japan, but was not localized for North America audiences, as Dynasty Warriors Next was already in development for the region at the time. For me personally, this game is significant for a few reasons. Though I had become obsessed with the Samurai Warriors, which was my first entry into the Musou series and genre, I had not priorly gotten into the Dynasty Warriors games other than dabbling a bit in 5 and 6. This one was the first that truly hooked me and got me interested in the history, both fictional and factual, and really made me develop an appreciation and connection with the characters. I took special interest and fascination with the Yellow Turbans and Zhang Zhao. He is to date still my favorite character in the series. Having gone back and fully experienced nearly all of the games from the beginning of the series to current day, this is also my favorite iteration of his character. I love the design and the voice actor so much. Zhang Zhao's design would change drastically in Dynasty Warriors 8, and his voice actor left in the great exodus of voice talent with the release of Dynasty Warriors 9. A lot of players see Zhang Zhao as an early game adversary and don't appreciate what the Yellow Turbans were trying to do. The historical accounts showing a once altruistic and noble movement degrading into madness and banditry are fascinating to no end, and show even the roads paved with the truest and noblest of intentions can lead to widespread suffering and destruction. My love for this installment was cemented with the addition of Wang Yi in the Extreme Legends expansion. Her story of a maniacal pursuit of revenge and how it ultimately became unfulfilling and destructive was so interesting to me. Her design is incredible, both being beautiful and sultry while also readily conveying the darkness and extreme dissatisfaction she has with her life. The cycle of revenge her family and the Ma family go through, which in the end leaves them all broken and worse for it, is truly tragic. This is a game I have replayed multiple times and spent countless hours grinding all of my beloved and favorite characters to max level in. To this day, I still prefer this graphical presentation, the character designs, and the method of storytelling over any of the newer releases. I believe Dynasty Warriors 7 secured the franchise's place in modern gaming and did so much to keep the series relevant. Thank you so much for including me in this collab, Kaiser. In the words of the great Zhang Zhao, the time for judgment has come! Catch you later, guys.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Total Level here, as thanks to Mad Kaiser for having me on for this Dynasty Warriors retrospective video in celebration for the release of Dynasty Warriors Origins. I have the pleasure to cover Dynasty Warriors 8 and its expansion, so let's dive in and see what Dynasty Warriors 8 brought to this long-running series. Dynasty Warriors 8 is the 8th main installment of the Dynasty Warriors series, with the game building on the foundation of Dynasty Warriors 7, and was said to have the player be the ultimate one-man army according to the producer. First released in Japan on February 28, 2013 on the PlayStation 3, before being released on both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 on July 16th in North America, July 19th in Europe, and July 25th in Australia, all in 2013. Dynasty Warriors 8 also used a brand new engine, and so all character models had to be remade from scratch. This game features a dual weapon system from 7, though in Dynasty Warriors 8, equipped weapons cannot be changed mid-battle. You also have switch counters in which you can counter an enemy officer's charge attack, giving you a temporary increase in attack and defense. Characters also level up like you would see in the Warriors Origins series, where leveling up unlocks new skills and experience, which can be stored and used for untouched characters. All characters have 3 Musou attacks and 3 Musou bars as they level up, where these attacks don't knock back ally characters. Rage system returns similar to Dynasty Warriors 5, where you have a rage bar that you can unleash, giving you a temporary increase in attack speed, attack range, and defense. There are also some new button inputs and tweaks to the gameplay. Stage timer and morale gauges are reintroduced. Dynasty Warriors 8 offers 3 main game modes: Story, Free, and Ambition mode. In Story modes, you have 5 main story campaigns to play through: Wei, Wu, Xin, Jin, and Other, based on Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Each stage allows you to choose between 2 to 4 different characters throughout each stage. There is also a lot more freedom with how stages play out. You have certain challenges to accomplish on each stage that can alter the course of history, having you follow the historical path or a what-if hypothetical path depending on what you do on the battlefield. This creates replay value to see what each scenario entails. Free mode returns once again as a way to have players play a more relaxed casual mode to level up some characters or do some challenges. Ambition mode has you rebuild the Tonkutai Palace and raise your palace's reputation and fame so that the Emperor will come and visit. You will gather materials to raise your camp's facilities, raising fame, gaining new allies as you defeat officers in battle, and mock battles to face off against your allies, though the palace must be completely rebuilt to do these mock battles. Dynasty Warriors 8 was followed by 2 expansions, the first being Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends, released on the PlayStation 3, 4, Vita, PC, and Switch, with the Switch version being the definitive edition, including all previously released DLC. This expansion includes updated visuals and performance, the base game, new costumes, new story scenarios, a challenge mode with challenges like seeing how many KOs you can achieve in a set time, and overhauled ambition modes where once the palace is finished, the goal is to be united with Han China, and a brand new story mode to play through using Lu Bu and seeing his story. The second expansion is Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, releasing on PlayStation 3, 4, Xbox One, Vita, PC, and there was a Switch port, but that was Japan only. In this expansion, you will choose between 3 different factions to join or create your own. You will need to strategize on the best course of action. You can join battles, create relations with other factions, betray factions, get officers to join you, decide how to spend your facility's wealth, get married, and have children. And my personal experience with Dynasty Warriors 8 is this is one of my favorite ones. This is the game that got me hooked on the series, along with Musou games in general. Love the hypothetical storylines. I love games like that, right? So Dynasty Warriors 8 is just a great all-around package overall. And so, I hope everyone enjoyed me talking about Dynasty Warriors 8. Thank you again to Matt Kaiser for having me, as now, I will throw it back.
Dynasty Warriors 9 is, as it says, the 9th entry in the series, and I think the one that probably makes some of the biggest changes for the franchise, depending on how you view it, whether it be good or bad. Some of the biggest changes for it would be, instead of just these battlefields that the series is known for, the game would be an open world environment, allowing players to say, freely explore the world, go into towns, launch, and then have battlefield assaults. So it felt more seamless because they wanted to try and build and make a more evolution for the series compared from 7 to 8. So not only was the introduction of an open world here, but they also changed how mechanics worked, so replacing normal attacks with flow attacks, charge attacks are now called trigger attacks, and each character even has a special attack. And there's still a fair amount of customization with it, whether it be changing your character's weapons, or new for the franchise, you could customize and decorate your hideouts with stuff that you buy from merchants. And of course, items have different effects, so it really depends on how you plan things out. In terms of characters though, all 83 characters are available right off the bat from Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires. There were also new characters introduced, and one of them being from the spin-off Warriors All-Stars. So there was a lot that was brought to the table, including a revamped story mode and even a free mode once the story mode has been complete. Now, unfortunately, this game did not receive the best reviews at the time, mostly for technical limitations and some of the missions where you have to repeat them for each character, and some weren't too happy with the drastic design changes for it. Having tried a bit of it myself, I feel like, yeah, it's dramatic and the technical issues do kind of hamper the experience, but you could see where the series was going with it, and with the use of this new technology called the Katana Engine, you see its advancements in other installments such as Samurai Warriors 5, Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Fate Samurai Remnant, and even Rise of the Ronin. So you see this technology evolve over time. But this wasn't the only game that carried the moniker of Dynasty Warriors 9. Just like with 8 and other installments, there was an Empires expansion. However, just like with other games in the Empire series, the focus is more on strategy, with the goal of uniting China under one banner. Now, it wasn't open world like Dynasty Warriors 9, but it did use quite a few of its assets from the open world for its encounters and its environments. Overall, I would say like 9 might be the dark horse of the series. But if you're playing through them and you're looking to see what the series is all about, this is definitely something I would look into. However, if you're going to play these, I would recommend the PC version of them, provided you have the hardware for it. It's just a better experience throughout, and it actually shines on PC. But overall, yeah, Dynasty Warriors 9, it's alright.
Now, before we get to Origins, I might as well mention the other spin-offs that the series had. And it's not going to include things like the Samurai Warriors franchise or the Warriors Orochi, or the vast amount of licensed titles from other big franchises, but still, I'm going to give some of these games a mention of some sort. Now, in 2006, we had Dynasty Warriors Volume 2 for the PlayStation Portable, which is essentially a follow-up to Dynasty Warriors that was on the same system, as the game and the character models are all from Dynasty Warriors 5, and even had some new features, and some lifted from the previous game, which included multiplayer fights up to 4 players, and had the ability to trade officers wisely with other players. In addition, Volume 2 even had the opportunity to fix the HUD problem that was found in the past game. And like Dynasty Warriors PlayStation Portable, this game also features unique characters from the Samurai Warriors series, which serves as special bodyguards. In this game, the characters and models were taken literally from Samurai Warriors 2. Then also in 2006 in Japan for PC and then later worldwide in 2010, while Japan also got for PlayStation 3, while the rest got for PlayStation 4 and Vita around like say 2010 to 2015, Dynasty Warriors Online was made as an MMO game, where players got to customize their own character and defeat opposing armies for experience points. Players would also even see other players that can battle, and we also had features like free roam, of which characters can move around the faction city talking to various NPCs. This service, however, lasted until 2014 for the Western version, while Japan only shut down in 2022. In 2007, we also had Dynasty Warriors DS Fighters Battle for the Nintendo DS. And this one had sort of like a Warriors card system with 120 cards on offer. And during battles, the cards are used to summon the warriors of the Dynasty Warriors series to assist the player in battles. And decks can be formed by the players. However, the number of cards a player can equip is only as much as the number of players' defense points. Ration stores and weapon stores were also in the map, and cards could all be classified, and cards were classified using the colors, the blue, red, yellow, green, or pink, the latter of which is very rare. The blue using for skill, red cards using for enhancements for attack, defense, and health, and yellow cards providing skills and stat equipments. This game was a mixed bag to say the very least. Then around in 2011 to 2012, Dynasty Warriors Next was made for both a launch title and exclusive for the PlayStation Vita. And this game made use of the PlayStation Vita's gyroscope and touch controls, tilting for aiming Musou attacks or even marking enemy weak points, and touchscreen, which is used for blocking or deflecting projectiles. And of course we have the last spin-off to mention, which is Dynasty Warriors Seekers, which is more of a turn-based strategy game released for PlayStation 4 and Vita in 2017. And while we did have a PlayStation 3 version in 2016 as well. Now this game differs from the Empire games, where players can control a team up to 5 members, and they move across a grid and attack enemy units in order to achieve some form of objective. The maps in this game are mostly found in Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, with some alterations to limit the size of the level and better fit the whole grid pattern system. And that's the gist of it. Now of course there's some other spin-offs that are mostly just Japanese exclusive, and once again there's various amounts of sub-series throughout the Dynasty Warriors series, which of course includes the aforementioned Samurai Warriors, Warriors Orochi, licensed titles, but to be honest, this video is already likely way longer than it needs to be. So yeah, putting aside for that, the current state for Dynasty Warriors for now was at a rough position, especially when Dynasty Warriors 9 was considered to be a disappointment. Among that, Samurai Warriors 5 and Warriors Orochi 4, while solid games, they just didn't live up to expectations by their respective fans. Koei Tecmo themselves was put in a corner, and while the licensed Warriors games like Hyrule Warriors Edge of Calamity, Fire Emblem Warriors Free Hopes, Fate Samurai Remnant, and Persona 5 Strikers have been very solid games, but for what started this whole genre, what began the whole Musou Warriors thing, Dynasty Warriors itself started becoming more of a footnote. All hope for the series seemed to be lost. However, that all changed in June 2023.
Soldiers and officials alike oppress the people for personal gain, and the people must turn to thievery for food. Perhaps this is heaven's way of lamenting the state of the land. Men are powerless at the feet of the divine. But even so, someone must act.
Dynasty Warriors Origins was a massive surprise, even if the event that this game got revealed by was leaked a little bit ahead of time. Now this game serves as a potential soft reboot for the series, with making some bold changes to the formula, with it actually saying before the War of the Three Kingdoms storyline, and serving as a potential starting point for newcomers, and providing a brand new fresh take, with it now actually centered on the brand new nameless protagonist. As months went by, the more information and footage we got seemed promising, with it catering to be one of the more challenging Musou games we had in a long time, especially appealing to the classic PS2 era, with enemy officers here providing an actual threat, as well as adding new reactive elements to the combat, with perfect dodging and parrying in the mix, as well as a brand new tactic system, where you're able to command your allied troops to position themselves to surround and take down the enemy. Now, while there is some contention to be had with the reduced character roster and how most of the gameplay comes from the nameless hero, the legacy officers you do get to play as still play a role and help out with buying your own hero and provide much more powerful combat gameplay wise. The new direction, graphics, combat, and story have been what many are eyeing for when it comes to this game. Among also it having a demo which has gained positive reception, with having over 1 million downloads. Dynasty Warriors Origins comes out this January 17 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series and PC, and so far the early reviews of this game have been very positive. And that wraps up this retrospective. Thanks to the amazing people I got to work with for collaborating with me on this. They're absolutely amazing, and please check out their YouTube channels. I'll have the links in the description down below because they are so worth it. They're absolutely amazing. So once again, thank you for those guys for collaborating with me with this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And let me know down in the comments if you guys played the Dynasty Warriors game yourself and which one is your favorite. and if you're excited for Dynasty Warriors Origins. Well, until then, Mad Kaiser, out.